Hello everyone, my name is Nancy, 45 years old. Let me share a personal story with you. I met my former husband, Arthur, at our workplace, and we instantly hit it off. Our friendship quickly blossomed into a romantic relationship, and after 3 years of dating, we felt we were meant for each other and decided to tie the knot. Now, I've always been someone who didn't prioritize having children, whereas Arthur had always envisioned a future with kids. During our dating period, we had numerous conversations about this, but I believed that over time, Arthur would see the joy in our partnership alone, even without children. For the first 3 years of our marriage, the topic didn't come up as we were immersed in enjoying our life together. Those years were wonderful, and I thought Arthur felt fulfilled as well. However, to my surprise, right after our second anniversary, Arthur brought up the idea of starting a family again. Initially, I was hesitant and expressed my discomfort. Arthur would drop the subject for a while, but eventually revisit it. After much discussion, I agreed to have one child, making it clear that should we want more children, we would consider surrogacy or adoption. Arthur was ecstatic with this compromise, and we began our journey to parenthood. The road to pregnancy was not smooth. After 5 months of trying, I became pregnant, but the experience was far from easy. I dealt with constant nausea, strange cravings, and a heightened sensitivity to certain smells that often led to more nausea. Despite these challenges, Arthur was a pillar of support, doing everything in his power to make me comfortable. About 7 months into the pregnancy, during a routine visit to our obstetrician, we encountered a worrying moment. The doctor's repeated checks and concerned expressions as she examined the ultrasound images filled us with anxiety, signaling that something might be amiss. During our consultation, I couldn't contain my worry and had to ask the doctor if there was a problem. She reassured us that our baby was healthy but mentioned a concern about his development below the waist. She explained that while there was still time for growth, it was likely our son might face challenges with his legs due to a potential disability. The ride home was enveloped in silence, each of us lost in our thoughts about the future. Once we arrived and stepped into the safety of our home, Arthur embraced me tightly, and we allowed ourselves a moment to mourn the idealistic visions we had of our family life. Overwhelmed, I apologized to Arthur, irrationally blaming myself for our unborn son's condition. Arthur, however, firmly reminded me that no blame lay with me, that we were simply facing a stroke of harsh luck. Despite not initially wanting children, my pregnancy had transformed my perspective, and I'd begun to dream big for our son. From playing sports together to witnessing his first steps and playful antics, I longed for all the quintessential joys of parenthood. Confronted with this reality, I felt robbed of those dreams, voicing how unfair it seemed, not just for us, but especially for our children. Arthur acknowledged the pain, admitting that he'd never envisioned parenting a child with disabilities. Yet, he also emphasized the unpredictability of life and the importance of accepting our situation. Amidst the emotional turmoil, I expressed my fear that pursuing another child in the future would no longer be an option, believing that our focus should solely be on providing for the needs of our son. I worried about the potential for resentment if we introduced another child into our family later on. Arthur suggested revisiting the conversation about expanding our family in the future, once our current circumstances had settled. However, I was adamant, feeling too overwhelmed to consider it. Arthur proposed we pause this deeply emotional discussion until after our son was born, allowing us some time to process our feelings and adjust to our new reality. Feeling still raw from the doctor's prognosis, Arthur's seemingly casual mention of having another child in the future unsettled me deeply. It struck me as insensitive, given the challenges we were about to face. Despite my altered demeanor towards him, Arthur seemed unaffected and did not revisit the topic, nor did he react to the change in my behavior. 4 months later, our son Mason was born. Unfortunately, due to incomplete nerve development, Mason was paralyzed from the waist down. Despite this, my overwhelming emotion was relief and joy that he was otherwise healthy, without any additional complications. Adjusting to life with Mason demanded much from Arthur and me. Our routine was filled with sleepless nights, work, and continuous care for Mason, including frequent doctor's appointments to monitor his health and development. The doctor suggested we could consider treatments, such as medication or surgery, to potentially give Mason some sensation in his legs when he was a bit older. We kept an open mind to these options for his future. Mason grew into an exceptionally bright child. By nearly 3, he started talking, and by 5, he was already exploring beginner-level books. His intellectual achievements filled me with pride, especially knowing the additional challenges he faced. However, Mason did encounter discrimination, and despite his capabilities, there were suggestions from his school about placing him in special education. We staunchly opposed this, as Mason was fully able to participate in regular classes without issue. When Mason turned 6, we broached the subject of exploring medical options for his legs, to gauge his interest in potentially increasing his mobility in the future. Mason expressed a profound love for his wheelchair, and no desire to change his situation. His contentment with himself was heartwarming, though I was aware his feelings could evolve. I was prepared to support whatever decision Mason might make in the future, whenever he was ready to reconsider. Arthur, however, showed impatience with waiting for Mason's readiness to explore medical options. He acknowledged being pleased with Mason's acceptance of his condition, but expressed a desire to pursue all possible avenues to improve Mason's mobility sooner rather than later. This difference in perspective revealed the complex emotions and decisions we faced as parents navigating our son's journey with his disability. Arthur argued that we shouldn't simply accept Mason's condition when there were potential ways to improve his situation. He believed in exploring every possibility to enhance Mason's life. I countered, emphasizing that Mason, despite his challenges, was already living his best life. He might not walk, but his intellect and talents shone brightly. My stance was about respecting Mason's autonomy, to letting him guide us on if or when he wanted to pursue any treatments. Arthur raised the concern that waiting might mean missing a critical window for treatment during Mason's developmental years. I understood his point but felt strongly that such a significant decision shouldn't be rushed or taken lightly, especially given Mason's age. The fear that Mason might grow to regret a missed opportunity was valid, yet burdening him with such a decision now seemed equally troubling. Moreover, I worried about the impact on Mason's self-esteem. The message we might inadvertently send, that he wasn't perfect in our eyes, could harm his self-perception. Arthur countered, suggesting that successful treatment could lead to gratitude later, especially considering the societal challenges faced by those with disabilities. He reminded me of our initial reactions, acknowledging the harsh reality we navigated, and argued for proactive steps towards potential improvement. Admittedly, Arthur's arguments made sense, and amidst many discussions, we agreed to proceed with treatments. The following year and a half was a whirlwind of hospital visits, marked by exhaustion and heartache each time Mason experienced pain. Arthur remained the steadier of us, consistently assuring me of our decision's merits. However, as time passed without significant improvement, my resolve waned. Finally, witnessing Mason's resilience and happiness despite the treatments, I advocated for a halt. I argued that Mason's contentment with his identity outweighed our pursuit of a solution that seemed increasingly elusive. Despite Arthur's attempts to persuade me otherwise, my conviction was firm. Mason's well-being, as he perceived it, was paramount, and our interventions, well-intentioned though they were, needed to be reassessed in light of his happiness and quality of life. Witnessing Mason endure so much pain became unbearable for me. As we navigated through the myriad of treatments and surgeries, I felt increasingly isolated in the caregiving role. It seemed Arthur had withdrawn, his involvement diminishing over time, leaving me to shoulder the majority of Mason's care. His visits grew infrequent, attributed to fatigue from work, which left a growing rift between us. When we decided to cease Mason's treatment, Arthur expressed his disappointment quietly, but the matter seemed to settle without much further discussion. Months after stopping the treatment, Arthur broached an unexpected topic: the possibility of having another child. He pointed out that Mason was nearing 7 years old and suggested we consider either adoption or surrogacy. I was taken aback. This was a path I had firmly closed, a decision made during a time of immense stress and focus on Mason's well-being. Arthur's suggestion felt out of touch with the reality of our situation, especially considering his recent detachment from our family life. Arthur's approach, seemingly casual about such a significant life decision, frustrated me. I couldn't help but respond with sharpness, driven by the stress of the past months and his lack of presence. His reaction was one of defensiveness, accusing me of expecting him to revolve his life solely around our son's disability. His words were hurtful, suggesting a disconnect in understanding the depth of love and commitment I held for Mason. The conversation escalated quickly, with Arthur insinuating that I harbored negative feelings toward our situation, a claim I found deeply offensive. My stance was clear: introducing another child into our family, given our current dynamics and the focused attention Mason needed, would not be responsible or fair to anyone involved. Arthur seemed resigned, attributing any future consequences to my decision, a statement that left me bewildered and upset. At that moment, any desire to understand Arthur's perspective vanished. His consideration of expanding our family in light of our recent challenges and his diminished involvement struck me as incredibly misguided. The discussion ended in a stalemate, with a heavy air of unresolved tension and blame, marking a significant turning point in our relationship and family dynamics. Initially, the idea of expanding our family was something I pondered deeply, especially in the early years after Mason was born. My research led me to countless stories where siblings felt neglected or overlooked due to the extra attention required by a brother or sister with disabilities. This wasn't necessarily anyone's fault. It's a natural outcome when one child needs more care. I couldn't bear the thought of bringing another child into our home, only to possibly feel that they were second to Mason's needs. After expressing my concerns, Arthur withdrew from me entirely. I tried to give him space, hoping he just needed time to process our disagreement, but his silence stretched into weeks. Mason noticed the tension and questioned if we were fighting, to which I could only offer a gentle lie about a minor disagreement. Time passed, a month, then more, and still, I held on to the hope of reconciliation, continuously seeking any opportunity for dialogue. 4 months into this growing divide, I stumbled upon a devastating revelation. Arthur had been communicating with someone named Gloria, exchanging messages filled with affection and plans to meet again. Their conversations hinted at a future together, away from me. This betrayal cut deep, far beyond the disagreement over expanding our family. It was a breach of trust I had never anticipated from him. The thought of confronting Arthur crossed my mind repeatedly, yet I chose a different path. It was clear I needed to prepare for what might come next, particularly for Mason's and my future. In the following 9 months, I found work as a scriptwriter. Though it wasn't a lucrative job, it provided us with some financial stability. This period wasn't just about earning, it was about laying the groundwork for a life that might soon drastically change, ensuring that regardless of Arthur's decisions, Mason and I would have a solid plan in place. I had been saving money in secret, preparing for a future that suddenly seemed inevitable. This fund was my safety net, a secret I kept from Arthur. Then, the day I had dreaded arrived, Arthur walked into our home not alone, but with a woman by his side. When I asked who she was, he coldly introduced her as Gloria, declaring she was there to replace me. His words were like a punch to the gut. He spoke of his misery, not just recently, but over the past decade, describing our life together as a nightmare. The announcement that he intended to marry Gloria and start a new family, the right way this time, was shocking enough. But his disregard for our son Mason and his responsibilities towards him was unbearable. Arthur callously revealed that Gloria was pregnant, implying their child would be normal, in direct and cruel comparison to Mason. His lack of respect for our son, referring to him as anything less than, ignited a fury in me. Arthur's blame for our family's challenges on my reluctance to have more children and his insult towards Mason as a monster were beyond forgiveness. In a moment that seemed to strip away any remaining respect or love I had for Arthur, he demanded we leave our home within a week, tossing divorce papers at me. The venom in his and Gloria's smirks as they looked at us was chilling. But it wasn't his betrayal that hurt the most, it was the disdain he showed towards Mason. Finding Mason in tears, having overheard everything, broke my heart. I comforted him, assuring him that he was nothing like what Arthur had described. We retreated to our room, where I began to pack, determined to leave this toxic environment as soon as possible. After Arthur and Gloria left, it was just Mason and me. This moment marked a new beginning, one filled with challenges but also a resolve to protect my son and build a life where he felt valued and loved, far away from the cruelty that had just unfolded. After the confrontation with Arthur, I found solace in action, swiftly organizing Mason's belongings and securing the divorce papers. In those moments of turmoil, I reached out to my mother, who, upon hearing the news, promptly arrived with my father to assist us. They enveloped us in support, helping us pack and welcoming us into their home. Amidst the chaos, a strange sense of relief washed over me, lifting the heavy burden of dread and uncertainty that had plagued me for months. With my parents' support, I hired a competent lawyer who helped me navigate the legal battle for alimony and child support. The verdict favored us, awarding substantial support for both Mason and me, much to Arthur's displeasure. His reaction mattered little to me by then. My focus was on rebuilding our lives. The following years brought a mix of healing and new challenges. While I immersed myself in work and caregiving, Mason discovered a powerful outlet for his emotions and ambitions in Paralympic sports. By the age of 15, he had developed a keen interest in wheelchair racing, practicing with determination. His curiosity about taking his training to a national level surprised me, revealing the depth of his passion. Mason's aspirations transcended the financial implications of professional training and equipment. My immediate response was encouragement, promising to provide whatever he needed to pursue his dreams. This commitment sparked the beginning of Mason's journey toward becoming a national athlete. His dedication was palpable. Each day, he returned home exhausted yet radiating joy and determination. Witnessing his commitment and seeing him thrive on the track filled me with indescribable pride. As the national tournament approached, Mason's qualifications were impressive, easily securing his place in the competition. Our family celebrated his achievements and the upcoming event with a gathering that was as much a send-off party as it was an expression of our collective hopes and dreams for him. The anticipation was palpable, making it nearly impossible for any of us to find sleep that night. On the day of the tournament, the stadium came alive with the vibrant energy of competitors and supporters. Chants filled the air, a testament to the community and spirit of the event. It was a day marked not just by athletic prowess, but by the strength of the human spirit and the enduring support of family, illustrating the transformative power of love, resilience, and ambition. At the national tournament, my excitement for Mason knew no bounds. As he prepared to race, he caught my eye and shared a moment of affection, with a kiss blown in my direction. Then he took off, leaving his competitors in the dust, and my heart soared with pride at his incredible performance. The victory was sweet, but what came next was even more memorable. During the awards ceremony, Mason was invited to speak. He expressed his gratitude towards me and his grandparents for our unwavering support. But then, he took a moment to mention his father, Arthur Lambert, crediting the absence and neglect from Arthur as an unlikely source of his drive in athletics. This bold acknowledgement in front of the crowd, and later echoed in newspaper headlines, stirred a reaction from Arthur, who reached out after years of silence. Arthur's call, prompted by the news of Mason's success, was filled with claims of pride and a desire to reconnect. Yet, his words fell on deaf ears. The time for reconciliation had passed, and Mason's accomplishments were his own, achieved despite Arthur's earlier abandonment. Arthur's plea to speak to Mason was met with a firm refusal, a decision supported by Mason himself, who had no interest in reopening old wounds. Mason's journey didn't stop at that one race. He continued to excel, participating in numerous competitions and consistently securing victories. His story, marked by resilience and a refusal to be defined by his disability, resonated widely, offering inspiration and serving as a testament to his strength of character. This experience, shared in the public eye, carried a powerful message. Kindness and support can propel individuals to achieve greatness, regardless of the challenges they face. Mason's success story is not just about athletic prowess. It's a narrative of overcoming adversity, the importance of family support, and the strength found in forgiveness and self-belief.